Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Hope you all are doing fantastic on this Wednesday. It's crazy to think that we're in the latest part of July, but training camp is here. Very much looking forward to that. But BYU athletics is in a unique spot right now because many of you probably saw this yesterday that BYU basketball, from what I understand, sold out its entire allotment of season tickets for BYU basketball. Now, on its face, that's absolutely remarkable, and it's completely understandable. AJ DeBonsa, Richie Saunders, what Kevin Young and the Cougars accomplished with their Sweet 16 run a season ago, energizing the fan base. It's very easy to see why Cougar fans are very intent on getting out to the Marriott Center this coming fall and winter to watch this basketball team. The problem that seems to have emerged, and I've gotten some feedback from people that were in the Cougar Club, are contributing members of the Cougar Club, not just lay fans who've never been part of the Cougar Club. We're talking silver level. I think was the last level that had access to tickets yesterday. But as I understand it, within the first hour of those allotments opening, tickets were just gone, plumb gone, completely out. So while I understand that, yes, silver, bronze, even though I think it's like Y-Fan, I think is the lowest level of Cougar Club membership, you're paying the least amount of money into the Cougar Club coffers, but you were aced out of getting tickets. And there's been some frustration on that. The bigger thing is that BYU understands that they're in a whole new ball game. And I use that figuratively because joining the Big 12, it's not cheap. There are millions upon millions of dollars just simply being a member of the Power Four ranks that requires you to invest in your athletics. But beyond that, we're in an era of NIL. We're also in an era now of revenue share, $20.5 million. Now, BYU says they're not going to go to the full limit because I don't know why, but beyond that's beside the point. I've talked about that previously and kind of lamented my thought on that. But the bigger point is, there is so much more money having to be invested in these sports and in BYU athletics in general as a member of the Power Four, as the Big 12, and all this other investment you're having to have. Well, guess who that gets conveyed onto? The fans. And the other thing is it more importantly, if you're looking at it from a dollars and cents figures, that goes to corporate sponsors, that goes to your highest boosters. We're talking the legacy and AD circle type members of the Cougar Club who are contributing thousands, if not millions upon millions of dollars into BYU's athletic coffers. So while I understand the plight of the lay fan, and in interest of full disclosure, last year, I had a pair of season tickets to BYU football, had a pair of season tickets to BYU basketball. I never used them because, as many of you know, I am paid to go to these games. It is one of the perks of the job that I have always treasured, but also have never lost sight of, that I have a privilege. I actually get paid to watch these games. That is absolutely an incredible blessing in my life. I had those pair of tickets to give away to fans. I gave them away to our Locked On Cougars Insider Group members. I reserved that right for them. Well, this year, no such luck. I don't have season tickets for football because they've also sold out 43,000 and change of their full season ticket allotment in football. And then I think it's 18,000 plus in basketball or whatever. And while I respect it, I also feel for the Joe fan out there who wants nothing more than to be able to go support his Cougars, but may be priced out now because the secondary market, let's be honest, people are marking up those tickets. While you may, from time to time, find a person who's just taking it for face value, more often than not, people are marking those tickets up. And it's unfortunate because there's a lot of fans out there, and I'm no stranger to this. I'm in my 30s. I've got 3 kids under the age of, I guess, 9 now. And I cannot, the thought of me being able to fork over enough cash to take my entire family to a BYU athletics contest is pretty daunting. And I have a relatively small family compared to some out there. So while I understand BYU needing to raise as much money as possible, because that's what they need to do. Brian Santiago and his brain trust inside BYU athletics, that is their charge. They have to eat what they kill. They will never get a dime, a nickel, or a penny from main campus to fund BYU athletics. And yes, they're also getting more money coming into these coffers, but that payout isn't ultimately coming until the end of this upcoming academic year. I'm talking about the full allotment of media rights money, NCAA tournament payouts, etc., from the Big 12 conference. So BYU is being smart, speaking of BYU athletics, with its money, but it's also needing to take as much money off of corporate sponsors and anybody else who can contribute significant amount of money into those coffers. And that is why there is a favoritism, if you want to call it that, towards those individuals getting first crack at tickets. Yes, I heard about potentially corporate sponsors and friends of the program getting access even before Cougar Club members did for BYU basketball. While I have my issues with who should have priority access and the like, I also understand it because you're trying to make sure that you keep the people who fund a lot of this operation in your good graces. But at the same time, I hope at some point there can be a balance struck between, yes, corporate sponsors, big time boosters, but also these fans out here. There are thousands upon thousands, if not millions of Cougar fans out there who are loyal. Trust me, this podcast, it is ultra successful compared to many other podcasts on the Locked On Podcast Network because of you, because of BYU fan. And I'm talking BYU fan just to you individually, whoever you might be, because you guys consume everything. We joke about it on the Locked On Podcast Network. I call it the BYU bump, and it is legitimately a thing. If I go on one of the other Locked On Locked On Podcast, man, I'm getting inside my own head. If I go on one of those shows, guess what? Cougar fans follow and they watch that show, and it's a bump. There's a spike in viewership. Cougar fans are diehards. They are loyal. They are true. To use all of those expressions, loyal, true, and strong, I think is what the fight song says. Cougar fans are the epitome of that. And guess what? Some of you, frankly, are getting screwed. And that may make me unpopular with certain people at BYU who don't want me to say this or to highlight it, but it's a tough balancing act. And I don't envy Brian Santiago or anybody else. Dallin Moody is the deputy AD, trying to both appease, like I said, your top shelf boosters who fund so much of this, while also making sure that, like I said, Joe fan out there also can go out and enjoy the experience of supporting the Cougars in person. The nice part is in the Power 4 era, as a member of the Big 12, BYU's athletic contests are even more readily accessible in terms of watching them than they ever were before. We're talking both linear television and streaming. And now, yes, I know that streaming costs extra as well. As I said, all of this money, all the money that's being raised, it's being ultimately conveyed to you, the fan. Increased prices and ticket prices overall, even if you're a Cougar Club member, then you also have increases, I'm sure, in concessions when you get to the events. It's unfortunate, but it's also the price of doing business in this day and age of college athletics. So while you may not like it, understand that it's essentially it's a math equation. How do we go about funding and helping Cougar athletics, BYU athletics, win at the highest level? That's the charge that BYU athletics apparently has been charged with, according to Brian Santiago. He's told this story multiple times. I think it was Henry B. Eyring said, be remarkable, be nationally renowned. Well, the way to do that is to win. And to win, you got to invest money in it. And the way to invest money in it, you got to have those boosters who have got the deepest pockets available to you guys funding your ventures. So, yeah, I get the frustration from many Cougar fans out there. Some of you contributing Cougar Club members who are aced out. I was just last year, remember, I said I had the 2 pairs of tickets. I'm not a Cougar Club member. I just got it as a regular fan. I waited until the allotments essentially went through all the different ranks, and then I bought them as just a regular fan. Trust me, they've approached me multiple times about joining the Cougar Club, but it's just it feels like being a journalist and whatever. That's beside the point. But it's a tough deal. And I understand the plight of the regular fan out there, but I also see it from the other side of things and say, this is just simply the price of doing business. And BYU's wanted, you Cougar fans out there, you want a BYU to play at this level, to play in this sandbox. Well, guess what? It costs a pretty penny, if not gazillions of them, to have BYU playing at this level. And unfortunately, it's going to cost some fans a chance to go out and watch the Cougars for a full season when it comes to basketball or football. And the hope is that maybe you get out to 1, 2, 3, 4 games via the secondary market or single tickets, etc.